Free agent frenzy is here, and Sam Lafferty is a Blackhawk again. Join us next on CHGO Blackhawks. Welcome into the CHGO Blackhawks Free Agent Frenzy Show.
I'm so frenzied.
It's so frenzied right now. I'm Jay Zawoski. That's Mario Tirabassi. He's over there.
Hello.
Katie's running the show today. We appreciate Katie being here. Started the show a little bit early. We were going to go at 11:30, but with the big Sam Lafferty trade, we want to get on the air for you.
Had to jump in.
Sam Lafferty is a Blackhawk. A 6th-round pick goes to Buffalo. Sam Lafferty back to Chicago for the second, technically third time in his career.
Yes. Instant reaction.
Okay.
Huh.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean it's Sam Lafferty.
It sure is.
He you know, I remember back when we did the initial reactions, the emergency pod for the Ilya Mikheyev trade, which was just about this time. It was actually like yesterday, last year. It happened right before free agency, and you know, Lafferty was part of that trade, and we were talking about like, okay, there's two guys with some speed in the lineup, two guys, you know, veterans. We all really liked Sam Lafferty when he was here.
Yeah.
And you know, he came in as an acquisition. He left in 2023 at the deadline to Toronto, and a lot of people, you know, liked when he was here. When he was brought back, we were like, oh, it's a guy that we're familiar with, liked how he played, doesn't end up signing, and goes to Buffalo, 7 points in 60 games. Just not even anywhere near the player that he was when he was here in Chicago, endearing himself to Blackhawks fans. So you bring him back again. You made an interesting point that this is an interesting move to bring back a guy who could have signed with you last year and said, no, I'm going to go to Buffalo instead.
Right, I'm going to sign in Buffalo.
Maybe it was more money than what the Blackhawks were going to offer at that time.
He got $2 million from Buffalo.
But it's an interesting move. And last point I'll make, I don't know what purpose this serves.
I mean, we're talking about kids being ready for the Blackhawks, right? Like, who is going to be ready? Who's not? Sam Lafferty is a fourth-line player. He's a third or fourth-line player. So, Slaggert, probably on the fourth line right now, right? Like,
I would, yeah.
Who's spot? They have 12 forwards: Bertuzzi, Burakovsky, Teravainen, Foligno, Dickinson, Mikheyev, Donato, Reichel, Bedard, Nazar, Slaggert, Doc, and now Lafferty makes 13. Mm-hmm. So, someone starting in Rockford? Is it Colton Dock starting in Rockford? Are they just saying, we don't believe that Colton Dock can stay healthy for a whole year, which is a pretty safe bet at this point that he can't?
I mean, yeah, you err on the side of he might not, but you want him to be able to.
Look, he's a fine player. He does his role, and he does it well. I don't think that if some kid proves to be ready, that you have any hesitation about sitting Sam Lafferty in favor of a younger player.
No.
But I just don't know how this really moves the needle at all for the Hawks. Like, you traded Joe Veleno and got Andre Burakovsky. Great. That's an upgrade for sure. Mm-hmm. Lafferty is better than Veleno in my mind. Just brings more speed. He brings the winning hockey that Jeff Blashill is so into.
I guess, yeah.
I mean, I think the fact that Blashill is here and Veleno is not says something.
Sure. Yeah, that could be.
So, I don't know. I just don't. Unless there's more trades coming, unless there's forwards being moved, it looks like your forward group is complete. Because I didn't even mention Oliver Moore.
Right.
Because he's still, like, I'm looking at cap wages. He's still in Rockford. Ryan Green's still in Rockford. right? Like any of the guys you thought, Aiden Thompson, who might have a shot, still in Rockford. Samuel Savoie, still in Rockford. So these guys who you thought might be fighting for a roster spot out of camp, Sam Lafferty is absolutely blocking a roster spot from a bottom 6 younger player. Like, would you rather watch Ryan Green develop on the job or play Sam Lafferty? And again, you start one of those guys in Rockford, and they're great, and then you figure out the Sam Lafferty thing when you need to figure it out. Fine, I understand that. But if this is the move today, it feels like a move for the sake of a move, which is what we don't want.
Yeah, I mean, it's a move to insulate your bottom 6 if you're not willing to just completely throw all the kids in there right away. Which, granted, Kyle Davidson has taken his time with other prospects before, and I wouldn't be shocked if that's also the pathway for a guy like Ryan Green, a guy like Oliver Moore. Like, if they don't, as we said, this time last year with Frank Nazar, if they don't blow you out of the water in training camp, there's nothing to say that it's a bad thing to go to Rockford and kind of figure out the pro game there, even though both those guys did play a few games at the end of the season in the NHL. I think there's a little bit of insulation here with Lafferty, but I mean it just doesn't feel like it was just like, oh, you had to get somebody like that. You didn't have to get somebody like that.
Not really.
So I mean, Scott Powers put it out there, and it feels like a dagger in my heart right now. But he says, where was it? This could be all the Blackhawks do today. Paraphrasing.
I mean, yes, it could be. Also, no one had Burakovsky on the radar. No one had Sam Lafferty on the radar. We have talked about this about Kyle Davidson forever. He operates in the shadows. The stuff that Kyle Davidson is working on does not get out. So if the insiders aren't hearing anything, the local insiders aren't hearing anything from the national insiders, they're keeping it quiet across the board. So I don't think there's a 0% chance something else happens today, but it really does feel like when Powers put out the list yesterday of like, here are the needs: veteran defenseman, enforcer type, yada yada. And we saw like Tanner Jeannot and Jeremy Jacob Blauko, like those kind of names. Like, okay, I could see then maybe a need for an enforcer that plays 60 of the 82 games or whatever it might be. Sam Lafferty, I think, fills a role that could probably be filled by a kid that I'd feel comfortable having a kid filling at this point. There's no expectation on the fourth line center aside from go out there, try not to hurt the team, play solid defense, and add what offense when you can.
Right. If you're going to be an energy guy, someone who you can be reliable, can he be reliable with the dot? That's something that maybe he has an advantage over some of the young guys. But, the young guys need to figure out how to take draws in the NHL. Connor Bedard still has to figure out how to take draws in the NHL and be successful. So, I mean, the minor things that you expect out of a fourth liner, like there are players that are young guys. And yeah, if you're insulating against maybe Colton Dach not being the healthiest guy on the roster, you still would expect that he's going to be a guy that starts the year in Chicago.
Yeah.
Or has the opportunity to do it. So, I don't know. I just, Powers saying there's a good chance that this is all the Blackhawks do today. We'll see, but I wouldn't be surprised is the official tweet from him. I mean, also, this day, the frenzy, as we were calling it today, happened yesterday. And it's crazy that how many teams just kept their guys. Even when it seemed like, how are the Panthers going to pay all these guys? Well, they did. They figured out a way to do it. The Oilers were able to figure out a way to, keep Evan Bouchard and move the money that they needed to move. So it's just like a lot of these players that we were expecting to go to the free agency market and make this like a crazy summer, a crazy class. Just everyone just stayed put for the most part. Nikolai Ehlers and Brock Besser hit the market. That wasn't too surprising. I think the writing was on the wall that those guys were heading that direction, but they suddenly became the top guys.
Yeah.
With
and it looks like Ehlers might not be announced today.
Right.
Because he's going to field offer. I mean, that's the top available player all of a sudden.
Yeah. And
I'd take my time.
Yeah, I think that, looking at some of the money that went out there, like if I'm him, I'm like, yeah, I'm definitely going to take my time and figure things out. With Ekblad going back to Florida, Gavrikov became the top defenseman out there on the market. So he, we'll see what happens with him. He might take some time. The best goalie on the market was Jake Allen. He signed a 5-year extension as a 35-year-old.
Yeah.
So he's not going anywhere. So it's just, these big names just aren't out there, aren't available that we were expecting to maybe have, and it might slow the process down, and it might just make it seem even more glaring because it's on today, where July 1st is usually the big day. It became yesterday, but this now makes it feel like without everything else happening, it's just like, well, the Lafferty move kind of, even though if all those guys had gone to the free agency market, it would still kind of be, we'd still feel like, oh, what is this about? It kind of amplifies it because it's like, we're 20 minutes into free agency, and like that's like one of 5 things that's happened since the ding.
There's not been a lot.
Open market. It's
a Colin Blackwell extension.
Another former Blackhawk.
Has there been any players going to new teams yet? I don't think so. Christian Dvorak is the one going to Philly.
1-year deal.
$5.4 million for Christian Dvorak. That's the one non-trade movement we've seen. Obviously, the Jonathan Taves contract becomes official. Not a surprise, but they had to wait till today to announce that.
He's not switching teams.
But yeah, there's only been one actual free agent signing so far.
Parker Kelly gets extended in Colorado. Parker
Kelly?
Yes.
Wow.
4 years, $1.7 million deal. Take a little bit of time here to just talk about this. The NHL has found a new loophole in contracts, and it is low AAV for all the years, because then those deals are easily either bought out or tradable at the back end, and you front load them. Look at the Marchand deal.
Yeah.
Like, who in their right mind gives a 37-year-old a 6-year contract? Well, they front loaded the crap out of it.
Yes,
so, if you need to move him or bury him or buy him out in the back half of the deal, it's low money. So, Parker Kelly gets a 4-year investment. What was the 8-year deal that Bowman signed? Trent Frederick signs an 8-year deal. You don't need a Trent Frederick to be locked in for 8 years. So I'm interested at how over time this, these long contracts for mid players, some of them, for these low AAVs are going to start being looked at. Yeah. Even the Jake Allen contract, like I said, he's 35, signed a 5-year deal, but it's at 1.8 to be a backup. Like, it's just interesting.
It's weird too, because you've got the new CBA that is, I know that they've agreed in principle, but I don't think
it's not ratified
the signatures have been made or anything. And I wonder if there's some sort of, wait a minute, did they find something here that we're missing in the CBA? I don't know, but
I'm sure
this is what the Hawks got in trouble for, and the Canucks got in trouble for with Roberto Luongo and Marian Hossa.
Right.
It's like, well, you're just assuming you're going to end their careers on LTIR, and we don't want that.
Well, and Kovalchuk had a 15-year, or wasn't it, like a 17-year deal?
Yeah.
That got nixed, so they, put it down to 15 years or something like that. Yeah.
And it's just you just deal with it on the back end. And I like what Florida's doing is saying, screw it, we're going to win as many cups as we can, and in 4 years we're going to have a bunch of really old guys under contract, and so be it. We won 3 Stanley Cups or 4 Stanley Cups.
Right.
Great, you're willing to live with that. But
and the salary cap going up so high, and there's no limits to how many contracts you can buy out. If those guys are no longer serviceable, you just buy them out, eat the money. Who cares?
Right. It's just money.
Yeah.
It's just money at that point. So I don't know. I don't want to look. I have nothing against Sam Lafferty, the player. I think Sam Lafferty is a quality player. I think he will benefit the Hawks. He makes them a better team when he's on the ice. But when we're talking about the things that this team needs to really make a dent or to put itself out of the bottom 3 of this league, it hasn't happened yet, and it might not happen this year. And as Kyle Davidson said, you can't force guys to be available. But there are some guys available, And this is kind of the final piece. Like, I think we're pretty clear that we are in support of Kyle Davidson's rebuild plan. We are more often than not pleased with the way he's done things. It doesn't mean he's been perfect by any means, but it remains to be seen that he is able to get the big deal done. We keep talking about, well, he tried for Jake Gensel.
Right.
He didn't get him. Maybe he tried to make a big trade at the deadline last year. Well, it didn't happen. And he tried to get a big fish this summer, but it didn't work. Or he didn't think the timing was right. At some point, it's got to be done. And I know that they're not ready to win yet. I understand all that, but let's just use Mitch Marner as an example. If you trade for Mitch Marner and sign him for 8 years, you're telling me that at some point in the next 8 years, the Hawks aren't going to be competitive? If that's the case, then Kyle Davidson should be out of a job sooner than later.
Right. Yeah.
And we like all the prospects, but aside from Bedard and Nazar, Levshunov, Renzel, we don't really know what we have with the rest.
Mm-hmm.
That we don't know how good they will be. We're pretty confident in those four, and Vlasic, I guess, if you still want to call him a prospect, I don't. But I don't know.
200 plus games in the NHL, he's not a prospect.
I need to see at some point. It's got to be time to move this thing forward, and I think it's now, but apparently the Hawks disagree. So okay.
Yeah, I mean it's very clear with the fact that all the indications are they're not in on any of the remaining big players that are available, that Kyle Davidson, through this whole process, as he has said since he took over, and since he said, you're going through the rebuild and it's going to be a long journey, it's betting on that process. And I think he is continuing to keep his chips on the table, that the players he's brought in that's supposed to be the next wave of this franchise is going to be the way to go and the guys to get there. Now they have to develop those guys, guys being first round picks, having the best prospect system, one of the best in the league. Having all this young promise is great. It's something you can sell. But eventually you have to sell the next steps. You have to sell a team that's going to be competitive, a team that you can get behind it. And we all like these young guys for the potential that they could have, but they have to bring success as well. It has to cross to that next step. So I think Davidson's betting on, clearly going into this season, that this is a year where you're going to see the next steps of some of those guys. And he's really banking on Connor Bedard taking a next step, which by all indications, his offseason training is already showing he's making some progressions, and what the Blackhawks told him to work on and get better at. Fine, that's great. You're banking on Frank Nazar becoming a star. You're banking on him becoming a star for this team. You're banking on Sam Renzel potentially having the rookie impact that a Brock Faber did, as Frank Saravalli kind of alluded to earlier this summer. And you're banking on Levshunov and guys like Del Mastro, and you're banking on Spencer Knight being like a 60-game guy that is going to be a 900 plus save percent. There is a lot that you're banking on with these young guys taking these next steps, if you're not going out and getting players that have a track record, have a resume that you can look at and not have to wonder. A lot of these guys, the early returns, the early development is great, but there's still a lot of question marks of how fast they can get to where they're expected to get to, and how high can their ceilings actually be once they've started playing professional hockey.
Yeah, and look, I know it's good to be patient and rebuild, and fans are always going to be less patient than the GM.
Sorry.
As you should be, right? You want
I'm not laughing about that.
No, you want your GM to be patient. You don't want them to panic and pull the trigger. But I feel like Kyle Davidson is so afraid of, oh my God, we're going to sign this long-term deal to a really effective player, and then all our kids are going to be ready and they're all going to be good. And then what are we going to do? Then you move somebody. Right. That's a luxury. Then you can move a stud at the deadline and get a huge return for him. or you move a prospect at the draft and move up in the draft if there's someone you really like. Like, you give yourself options, but I think that just year after year, wishing and hoping and saying, and look, I believe in their prospects too. I look 3-4 years down the road and I see a roster of mostly Blackhawks draft picks, and I'm confident in that. But it is okay to supplement that right now to get a little bit of help for Connor Bedard primarily, to make your team more competitive, to improve the vibes around the locker room. You don't think these guys are sitting around watching today, seeing teams signing players, seeing good players become available and going elsewhere, and they're not like, all right, well, here we go again. I guess we're relying on the bottom six again.
To that point, Brock Besser, you could argue maybe the best forward available, him and Nikolai Ehlers.
Yep.
He's going back to Vancouver. 7-year deal, 7.25 for Besser.
Wow.
So
I really feel like he had a lot more money to make.
Christian Dvorak is currently the biggest free agent that has signed.
And the only.
With a new team of note. All of those players just went back to their own teams. Or they were traded because they most likely were,
Yeah, like Victor Arvidsson got traded to Boston today.
Right.
That's the biggest. That's probably, aside from Besser signing, that's the biggest player move of the day. I would say Sam Lafferty, second biggest move of the day.
Hey, there you go. Put that feather in your cap.
That's it.
Yeah, so I mean, you're looking around the league. It's just like, okay, what are the movements for some of these guys? Put Besser in the column of didn't move. Didn't switch teams.
So you can't do anything about that.
It's crazy that this market for free agency has with the salary cap going up, teams have just completely been like, well, we're just going to keep everybody. Like we have this ability to keep everybody now. There's really no need to try and go elsewhere. Keep the guys you have and invest in them. So, as much as it seems like a done deal that Brock Besser was heading elsewhere, he's sticking around in Vancouver.
Boy, he must be really happy there.
I guess.
It feels like there was a lot more money out there for him than that. But hey, there's a value in comfort. There's a value in security. And, I don't know what Brock Besser's family situation is, but, Yeah,
maybe he's
happy there.
Want to,
I get that.
There's nothing to say that he's going to leave. William Eklund signs a 3-year extension with the Sharks, carrying a $5.6 million AAV. That's from Chris Johnston.
And I wonder if we're going to start to see some deals announced, some extensions announced, because there's a lot of guys available for that, including Bedard, Nazar, and who am I missing on D?
Spencer Knight's available for extension. I mean, on that front, would it be nice on a day like today where you're not expecting to make any moves like that you still say, hey, look, extensions for all these young guys that we love and that are going to be, cornerstones of the next wave of the franchise, extensions for all of them. As nice as that would be, those guys have no incentive to do that now.
Yeah.
There is no incentive for Frank Nazar to sign any kind of extension now. Play this season. Play your value up. Same for Bedard. Yeah, sure, you could sign the extension. You're paying him for what you still expect him to be, obviously, but he doesn't have to sign it today. Play the season. See how your production goes, and see if that changes the dollar amount, on Kyle Davidson's table. So I don't expect there to be those kinds of extensions. I'd love it. That'd be great. I don't expect that to be the case.
Christian had a comment a little bit earlier saying, why do we have to rebuild and suck? It's right there. Why must we continue to suck to rebuild? Do we need more top 5 picks? That's kind of the thing. And when you saw the way that Kyle Davidson drafted this draft, he took a lot of swings. He took on a lot of long-term projects because there are a lot of guys knocking on the door for the NHL. So, okay, another bottom 3 finish. Maybe you win Gavin McKenna, which would be great. Fine. Okay. But what are the odds of that? Maybe 20% at best.
If you're last place,
but you're still rebuilding. You've still got young players in college, in junior, working their way up to the NHL level to get ready. you've got some guys that are right on the cusp who we've discussed already. Why is it just not time now to start adding to the NHL roster while you still have these college and junior prospects developing? You've got Mason West, who's in high school and is going to USHL before he goes to college. Like there is development still happening and the rebuild is still happening. I don't know. When is it going to be time? If they have another bottom three finish, is it next year? Oh, well, we got to make sure we got space for the guys we drafted this year. Like, when does it stop? When does Kyle Davidson, we get to talk to him today, when does Kyle Davidson say, I have seen now that this is the point where we start to add to the team?
Yeah.
I don't know when that will be.
I mean, you kind of look at the contract structure of the organization right now. Foligno expiring deal this year. Dickinson expiring deal this year. Mikheyev expiring deal this year. Lafferty, who they just brought in, expiring deal this year. Lucas Reichel is an RFA next offseason with arbitration rights if he even plays the full year. Connor Murphy's on an expiring deal this year. I mean, you look at it, that's a lot of bodies expected to either leave or need new contracts. So I think if the majority of those guys play out this season, like if the majority of those guys are on this roster at the end of the trade deadline, I can't imagine any of them coming back. Why would they?
I wouldn't think so.
I think if you go that route and you look at the young guys that you would have to sign, the young guys that you would extend, the young guys that you would bring in at the back end of next season, and you're talking about like guys that are on the cusp, ready to hopefully take that next step up a level. Maybe Colton Dach throughout the season becomes a full-time NHLer. Maybe Levshinov and Korchinski have those opportunities and become full-time NHLers this year. You'll have those guys in the mix. Then you go into next offseason and you would really only have young players left. Like, other than Donato, Bertuzzi, Teravainen, and the final year of Burakovsky's deal, I'm looking at defensemen, and you just have Vlasic signed. So you would only have 4 guys, 3 really, that are like 30 years old. You'd have a team that's going to be the youngest in the league. So unless you're adding through trades or adding through free agency next summer, like that's all you're playing with.
Look, maybe that's, and I know that he would not say that today, but maybe that's how Kyle Davidson's looking at it. He says, look, I've got these expiring deals happening next year. I am going to be aggressive next offseason and sign 3 or 4 of the top free agents, because I feel like at that point it'll be year 3 of Nazar, year 4 of Bedard, year 2 of Levshinov and Rinzel, and then maybe you start to feel like this is the time. It's also a significantly, I don't know if it's a better free agent class, but there's more available. There's certainly more guys available.
This summer has completely changed my outlook to, next year's free agency class doesn't mean a thing.
Yeah, no, it
does not mean a thing until we get to this July 1st next year. And I'm sure I'll forget that I make this point, but I'm not going to actually care who's a free agent until today next year, because we have no freaking clue. The salary cap is going to go up again. This time last year we were talking about Rantanen and Marner, and all these guys hitting free agency. We're like, Blackhawks are going to throw all this money at all these guys. None of them hit the market the way that people expected them to be. None of them. So, you can't even speculate about who's going to be a free agent next year because you have no idea how it's going to pan out.
No.
So, I don't know. I still think you go in to that 26-27 season and it's going to be a completely revamped roster one way or another. You're going to have a lot of young guys, like we're kind of making this point here, but you really don't know who's going to be available. To sound like Kyle Davidson, you can't force somebody to be available,
right?
So,
he's not wrong.
No, he's not. But I just think like it's a crapshoot. It's a gamble, and I think that's why he is more steadfast on being like, okay, well, we have these guys through the draft. We believe in these guys. We're developing them. That's really the only people that you can really count on in your organization and for your future plans wholeheartedly are who you have in your organization. So I think that's why he's going this route. It's a challenge as a fan to continue to believe in it. I think we're clearly seeing from reaction online, reaction in our chat, the leeway that Kyle Davidson has gotten with the fan base is thinning. I think people are starting to get impatient, and I get it. We've had that discussion many times, but it's starting to get to that point where you're starting to test the strands of some of the fan base, and Davidson can't care about that. He's going to obviously stick to his plan and believe in it and operate that way. But his bosses, the ownership of the Blackhawks and that group, they have to consider, their pocketbooks, and that's lined with what the fans think of the organization.
That's 100% correct.
We'll have to see.
A couple signings to announce, according to Bob McKenzie, Corey Perry going to L.A., as is Joel Armia from Montreal,
Cool.
also signing with the Kings.
Kings will finally beat the Oilers in the playoffs, and they'll get to the Stanley Cup final.
There you go.
Who are they going to lose to?
Panthers.
Oh, there you go.
When are the Panthers losing? I don't see it.
Yeah,
I really don't.
I know the dynasty conversation was kind of chuckled at after they won the cup, but now, as is on our screen here, all the guys that they just brought back from the cup team, I don't see how you beat this team.
But let's just reset it though. Let's be real here, right? Like, I know we're all in our feels. We were expecting a busy day. Right now, there are honestly, if you want to talk about help for Connor Bedard, there's two guys available. It's Nikolai Ehlers, who is the top prize on a free agent market.
Now,
I don't assume he's going to sign up for a rebuild. And it's Michael Granlund.
Two guys that I don't think have any desire to come to Chicago.
I don't know. Granlund went to San Jose last year, but then had a really good season, and went to Dallas for the playoffs. So maybe that playoff buzz is something he wants to chase again. Maybe he'd do another 1-year deal if Kyle Davidson is so scared of having someone blocking a kid. Maybe it's a 1-year deal. I don't know. There's only so many guys available, way fewer than we expected, and Kyle Davidson kind of warranted this. So I get the frustration. I'm frustrated too. I just, if there's no free agents available, though, there's other ways to get things done. You made a trade for Burakovsky. You made a trade for Lafferty. So there's got to be somebody out there available that can help you on your top six, I would think. And to me, it's not Burakovsky. Burakovsky is a middle six guy.
Yeah. Yeah, you'd think that there'd be a way to find somebody like that. I know Lucas Reichel's value is pretty low, but I'm sure you could add him to some, a package with a future draft pick, something like that could entice somebody, and maybe you get someone else who's in a similar situation where it's like, hey, change the scenery, doing you a solid kind of player. There's players out there like that still. I don't know if Lucas Reichel's enough to get you somebody that is super impactful, but you'd think if you maybe up the ante a little bit, you might get somebody who you'd expect to be a little bit more impactful than what he might be able to bring to the table. As we went through the draft process, everybody was willing to trade Kevin Korchinski for moving up in the draft and stuff like that. We've talked about it before. You could move Kevin Korchinski and try and find someone of equal value as a young player that is knocking on the door of the NHL. That's with a team that maybe has got him blocked. There's ways to go about it. I just don't know. Still don't know if Davidson is enticed by moving any of those young guys yet.
All right, we got to hit the break zone for the first time. We've not asked you to do this yet, so please hit that like button for us. Make sure you are subscribed to our YouTube page as well. We'll be back in 2 minutes on CHGO Blackhawks. And what is Sunnyside? We've been telling you for some time now, Sunnyside is your home for judgment risk-free cannabis shopping. So whether you're a rookie, whether you're a veteran, whether you're a prospect, Sunnyside has everything you need to elevate your summer. They've got great brands like Good News and Mindy's. Those are my favorite. The Good News Counting Sheep. If you have trouble sleeping, take half one of those before bed. You sleep like a baby and you wake up not groggy. That is my favorite thing they sell at Sunnyside, but literally everything there is fantastic. And if you're not sure what you want or what you need, the people at Sunnyside will get you squared away. They'll help you find the exact experience you are seeking. We know you'll love Cresco and FloraCal's incredible quality and consistent products. So visit sunnyside.shop for bright buys every day, including 50% off your first 3 online purchases. Enter promo code HICHGO at checkout to qualify. Exclusions apply. Sunnyside Cannabis Dispensary. Bright buys every day, only for 21 plus or Illinois MedCard holders.
And if you are looking to buy, sell, trade, or rip open a pack of sports cards, well, Arena Club is changing the hobby with their transparent slab packs and no fee auctions. So if you're into that, check them out at Arena Club. You can rip a pack for as low as $25 and hit on a card that's worth tens of thousands of dollars. Every pack has grails that are at least 20 times the price of the pack, and they offer full transparency showing every card in the pack with the likelihood of pulling each one so you know exactly what's available before you buy. Whether you're buying, selling, trading, grading, or ripping packs, Arena Club is the safest and most trusted in the game. And if you're heading to the 45th National Sports Collectors Convention, be sure to stop by the Arena Club booth happening July 30th through August 3rd at the Donald E. Stevens Convention Center in Rosemont. Right now, you can get 20% off of your first slab pack or card purchase by going to arenaclub.com/CHGO and using the code CHGO.
All right. And now it is time for Taking the Temp, presented by our friends at Four Seasons Heating, Air Conditioning, Plumbing, and Electric. I paused on the word heating because the thought of heating makes me upset right now. Visit fourseasonsheatingcooling.com for all their special offers and money-saving coupons. That's fourseasonsheatingcooling.com. We're taking a temp of Hawks fans, and as expected, frustration, impatience, some people questioning Kyle Davidson's ability to do this job.
It's a mixed bag.
And it's pretty mixed. But I would say I'd say 3-1 negative.
Who are into it, yeah, and I think that it's a grander, temperature taking of the fan base in general. I think would still be pretty split on, the impact of the day, right? And I think a lot of it is reactionary, but I think what'll be interesting is, if this Lafferty thing is all that we do, all that they do, and you go into next season and you're looking at, okay, who's going to be on the training camp roster, who's going to be battling for NHL ice, and you come out of it and you're like, this is a really young team. I think, as much as this middle ground of the offseason has kind of been, well, they didn't make a big splash trade or a big splash free agency signing or anything like that. You go back to April and you fast forward to potentially, start of training camp or start of the season, late September. You're going to have two sentiments that line up. At the end of April, we were saying, these young guys are exciting. This team is going to be faster. This team is going to be younger.
Yeah.
It's going to be more exciting to watch. These, finding out who's what through this development process, being led by these young guys is going to be at least exciting to watch next year. And they could have vibes like the San Jose Sharks where, maybe they're not winning a lot, but it's going to look and feel different as fans. And we might be heading into the, start of the season, end of the preseason, and be like, this is a young team. They're going to be exciting to watch. The development of these guys is going to be, something that you watch every game, and they might have a faster, younger, more exciting team. The vibes might feel like the Sharks. You got a new head coach. Maybe Jeff Blashill is a guy that gets a few extra wins out of them than anybody else would have going into that situation. And I think this middle ground of the summer might be a big roller coaster of get somebody, they didn't. Get somebody, they didn't. Didn't draft my guy, but they got these long-term, all this stuff. And we might just get back to that same point in September that we were in April, where it's just like, well, they're going to be young. It's going to be different. It's going to be exciting. Like, I don't know. It's
and I'm fine
a
with that.
winding
But
road to get to that point.
But I'm fine with that. But then why Sam Lafferty? Like you're that point is correct, and if that's the plan, I'm down with it. But like then you trade for Sam Lafferty, who you traded for last year, and he was like, "Nah, I'm going to go to Buffalo instead. I'm good."
Right.
I don't know. It just look. I think there's two Kyle Davidsons to evaluate here. There's the drafting side, and I think he's done a really good job there.
Yes.
I think he's also done a good job of moving on from bad contracts or maximizing when he does take on a contract that someone's trying to get rid of. He's got a good eye for, hey, this guy is better than the team getting rid of him thinks of. Dickinson, Mikheyev. There have been a bunch of those, okay?
Maybe
those are fine.
Burakovsky's that guy this year.
Sure, and executing the Seth Jones trade, getting Spencer Knight in a first-round pick back, that is a masterclass. But in terms of acquiring talent to help the team in a significant way, he has failed there. He's failed. Like, there's no doubt about it. And I don't know how hard he's trying. That's kind of the thing. But again, we know about Gensel. That was a fail. Yeah. We know about trying to get the trade to get Demidov and Levshinov. The effort was there. It didn't happen. And at some point, these things not happening become a concern in that realm. And as the rebuild starts to end and time to win starts to approach, we've got to see from Kyle Davidson the ability to close on some of these moves. And we just haven't seen it yet. I'm not ready to make a call that he's incapable of it because I don't know how hard he's trying. But right now, there's no evidence that he can seal a big deal for this team yet.
Right, and he can
sell what they're doing. He's so confident in what they're doing. Sorry to interrupt you. He so believes in all of his prospects and his development staff and everything happening in Rockford and beyond and how great these young players are going to be, but he somehow can't sell that to Jake Gensel or Nikolai Ehlers or Brock Besser or whatever free agent might be available.
Yeah. No, I think from an outside perspective from those players, it's a harder sell for sure. Also, you got to think about the dollars on the table. If you're going to make let's say for Gensel's case, right? Let's say for hypotheticals, the same amount of money was offered by Chicago as was offered by Tampa. Well, that's an easy choice.
Yep.
I'm going to go to Tampa. I'm going to get Florida state tax. I'm going to get all of that money, and I'm also going to be in an organization that's trying to win, trying to get to the playoffs, all that stuff. Yeah, I don't think that's a hard question to answer for Jake Gensel at that time. But you look at Donato, right? Here's a guy that likely would have gotten more money on the market, especially seeing how it's panning out here. He would have been a great free agent ad for some of these teams and probably would have been overpaid for by some of these teams that missed out on, free agents. But he decided that he wanted to stay in Chicago for the organization reasons, for family reasons. Like, it all made sense. And he, I took less money than I think he would have gotten on the free agent market. So from an inside the organization standpoint, you got players that do buy into what is being done, do buy into the direction that, the organization is going and who they're investing in. But I think it is harder to sell that from an outside perspective. So maybe the Donato deal might signal to some other guys across, the league, like, hey, like a player like that is investing in it. But I mean, there's only so much cachet that I think Ryan Donato has across the league anyways. Connor Brown is heading to New Jersey, 4 years, $3 million per. And Vladislav Gavrikov is headed to New York, 7 years, $7 million.
New York Rangers.
New York Rangers.
And Dan Vladar signs with the Flyers. 2-year, $3.35 million deal.
PHLY is getting a lot of action.
They're getting some moves. They're definitely getting some moves.
Yeah, I don't know. I think Kyle Davidson's expected to talk this afternoon. We'll be able to head over there and hear directly from him. But it's going to be very interesting to see where he's at, because obviously he's not going to show his cards. But now that we are post-draft and by all accounts post-free agency, it seems, for what the Blackhawks are going to do, I think you got to get a little bit of a clearer picture of what is going on, what is the expectation and the plan moving forward here, and where do you value the direction that it's going? Do you value it because you believe in all these young guys and you don't feel the need that you have to go out and get a splash signing because you believe these young guys are going to be all the help that Connor Bedard, people are talking, you got to get Bedard help. Does Davidson believe that, guys like Nazar and like Boisvert and Van Acker and Moore, and defensively, like getting those guys shored up and being full-time NHLers, is that the help that Connor Bedard needs, quote unquote, as it's categorized? Does Davidson believe that? Or does he believe he has to go outside of the organization to get that?
We'll see. I'm interested to hear what he has to say today when we talk to him this afternoon. A little bit of news here from Elliot Friedman, hearing the Rangers are working on sending Keandre Miller to Carolina. So that would be a big one. That's a trade. That's a big one.
They gave him a qualifying offer too, so that was interesting.
Yeah. Look, this very well though, like you said, could be the team heading into camp this year, and I guess so be it. Look, I'll say, like, I'm excited to see these young guys play, and I want them to play. Like, I do. I want to see Nazar and Moore and Renzel and all the young guys we've listed a million times. But you gotta. I'm not afraid that Connor Bedard's leaving. There is some of that conversation happening in the chat. He's not. Again, we will reiterate this. If you are the first overall pick, you are joining a bad team.
Right.
That is just how it goes. Like, it's not. Remember when the Hawks got Patrick Kane, they jumped up how many spots to win that lottery?
They went from 5th to 1st, I think.
Yeah, it was a significant jump, and they had already started kind of. You had Taves the year before at 3. You already had a few years of Keith and Seabrook and Crawford and guys developing.
Sharp was
so there, you got Kane and Taves on the back end of the rebuild. That'd be like getting Kane and Taves 2 years from now.
Right, yeah.
Different, right? Someone in the chat said the Hawks are starting to look like the Bulls. Absolutely not. They are the opposite of the Bulls because they have a plan and they are not straying from it. To the point of frustration where you're like, oh my God, it's time to do something meaningful.
Right.
It's time to make some trade to make the NHL roster better. But Kyle Davidson is steadfast in his plan that no, we are doing this through the draft. We will not add players that don't fit our timeline just for the sake of doing it. Great. Fine. We'll see it. I need to know, when will it be time? When you take 2 pretty big swings in the first round with Nestrasil and West, that indicates to me that you feel like your young prospects are pretty much ready for the NHL. So let's develop these guys slowly.
Right. Yeah.
So then why isn't it now? Why is it not this summer? That's what I don't get.
I mean, I think it's. I think we had those frustrations leading up to, and I think they're definitely justified. Be like, hey, this is a time to get somebody that's going to help you push you over that hump into that next step. But I think as we've seen over the last 24 hours, I think this is why it's not now. Is because by the time you get to free agency, by the time these players either do or don't have contracts, you look at the market and it's just like, do you want to, if you're competing against the rest of the league that missed out on Nikolai Ehlers, you're competing against the rest of the league that missed out on Gavrikov or players like that, and it's just like, do you want to throw a long-term high money deal at somebody like that you probably have to overbid somebody to get like a contender? I don't know. It's the long play, obviously, to kind of let that play out, and it's a patient play, but it's what Kyle Davidson can do, man. Kyle Davidson has been called many things. Impatient is not one.
No,
of them.
definitely not. We got to get the break zone, but when we come back, I want to correct a huge falsity. Is that a word? Falsehood? In the chat about this lovely city we live in.
Fallacy.
So we'll be back in 2 minutes on CHGO Blackhawks. And just like your favorite team needs a home ice advantage, your home needs a home floor advantage, and Empire Today can help you get it with their dedicated flooring experts. They are pros who focus on flooring every single day. You don't want to go to one of those big box stores and wander the halls and say, is this the right floor? Will this work? Do I have the tools to put this together? Don't do that. Let Empire Today handle it. Yes, exactly. Empire Today is your best bet for a new floor. They live and breathe flooring, and they'll be with you every step of the way. It's a whole new ball game. Their flooring experts bring the showroom right to your home so you can see how the new flooring is going to look in your house, and they're going to set it up for you, and you'll get clear upfront and all-inclusive pricing right away. And you can schedule an installation as soon as the next day. So schedule a free in-home estimate today. Get a $350 discount when you use promo code CHGO. Yep, a $350 discount with code CHGO. Restrictions apply. Visit EmpireToday.com/CHGO for details.
And that exacerbation on my face was because of the Windy City Smokeout. I just realized it's coming up July 10th through the 13th. One of the best events of the summer here in Chicago. 4 days of country music, ice cold drinks, and all the award-winning barbecue your stomach can handle. Does it get much more summer than that? I think not. If you haven't grabbed your tickets yet, Thursday and Friday tickets are still available. Country's biggest stars like Bailey Zimmerman, Old Dominion, Ko Wetzel, and Dylan Gossett are going to be lighting up the stage. Yes, the Dylan Gossett. Don't miss out on the best weekend of the summer. Grab your Thursday and Friday tickets now at WindyCitySmokeout.com.
That sounds fun. I was at the Windy City Smokeout a few years ago.
Yeah.
That's where I first discovered Luke Bryan. I get them all confused.
There's a lot of Bryans and Lukes in country music.
I was like, wow, this guy's popular.
Probably likely him. We have more deals to announce. Which one do you want to announce, Jay?
I'll do Tanner Jeannot.
Okay.
5 years, $3.4 million in Boston. Boy, teams cannot wait to commit to Tanner Jeannot.
Woof.
Tampa gave up like an entire draft for the kid.
Listen.
And now 5 years from Boston.
Would he kick my ass? Yes.
Yeah.
Would I want to give him 5 years and $3.4 million as the Chicago Blackhawks?
No. Nope.
No.
And then Michael Pezzetta, 2 years, $787,500 with the Leafs. Congratulations to him.
I mean, that's good.
Sure.
Good value for the Leafs bottom 4 guy or bottom 6 guy. Yeah. I mean, some of these deals are starting to trickle in now, but I mean, that's a lot of years and money for Tanner Jeannot, who plays a specific role in the league.
Boston has to have it. They've got to have that.
Boston values that for sure. And he was one of those guys that, on yesterday's show, we talked about, Mark Lazarus and Scott Powers put out their, thoughts about what the Blackhawks could be targeting in free agency. And Jeannot was one of those guys that they put out there. And I immediately was like, ugh, really? That's, and you see the investment it took to get him. That's a guy that I'm like, all right, well, I don't hate Davidson not doing that move, All
right, I want to clear up this
yes, go
this
for it.
comment in the chat. Daniel, who's here a lot, says, ask yourself why I would want to come to Chicago. Crime, taxes, crappy team, it's reality. Clearly, Daniel is not from Chicago or anywhere near Chicago because Chicago is the greatest city in the world. I may be a little biased, but I've been around this country of ours a little bit. I've been around the world a little bit. And I'm always happy to come home because this city is incredible. And it's got a lot of the same problems that a lot of major cities have.
Major cities.
But you walk around downtown, you walk around the West Loop here, you walk around Hyde Park, you walk around Bridgeport, Lakeview, Andersonville. You pick your neighborhood in Chicago, and you're going to have a great time with great food, a world-class city with world-class friendly people. Hockey-wise, it's an Original Six franchise. It has a recent history of success. Remember, they won 3 Stanley Cups recently in the HD TV era.
Yeah, color pictures.
They have massive offers for... Oh, Daniel gave himself away. He says, I'm in Naperville. Okay, there you go. I think we probably stop talking about it. But come to the city, Daniel. I challenge you. Come check out Chicago. You'll be okay. But even hockey-wise, If you're a hockey player with children,
Yeah, youth hockey.
the youth hockey scene here is incredible. The Fifth Third Arena is expanding. The team offers you great treatment on the road, first-class travel, first-class nutrition. The Fifth Third Arena itself is a selling point for teams. Remember, when Bill Wirtz owned the team, they had to go to Bensonville to practice at the Edge Ice Arena. They had to drive to friggin' O'Hare every day to practice. Now they've got their own facility, private locker rooms, everything they need. They spend most of their time at Fifth Third Arena in total privacy and security. This is a destination city. It's a destination city, and you can watch your Fox News and you can watch all the crap you want to see about how this is a war zone. Come to the city and look at it. Because if you're going to spout off in the chat about how Chicago sucks and is dangerous, have the balls to come here and see it. Because what you're reading about and what the narrative that's being sold to you is a fallacy. It is a fallacy. Are there parts of the city that are dangerous? Absolutely. Find me one that doesn't have that. Find me a single city that doesn't have a bad neighborhood in it.
Right, yeah.
Where
By the way-
poverty thrives, crime lives.
I looked it up, and Chicago's been voted the best city like 8 years in a row by Traveler magazine. So
Yes.
Yeah.
8 years in a row.
You've got a beautiful
No
lakefront,
biggie.
2 great ballparks, historic sports teams, first-class cuisine. If you don't, any player that comes here at any point of their 82-game season, they love coming here. They love visiting the city. They have the time of their lives here. So knock it off. Don't come in here talking crap when you're from your keyboard in Naperville. That drives me crazy. You're a quick train ride away from Chicago, and you can come down here and see exactly what it is.
Yep.
Sorry.
No, I ditto. I echo that sentiment. I loved living in Chicago. It was some of the most fun years I had living in the city. I love working down here. I love being around the United Center and Fifth Third and West Loop. Like it's awesome. I love being around Wrigleyville. Love being around Lincoln Square, Lincoln Park. Like it's so many great parts of the city. I lived up on the northwest side too for a while. Like it's great. I mean, you're not going to find a better city in the country. You can take that to the bank.
Yes.
Anything new happening? Nope.
No, I'm not seeing anything new.
No. So I mean, as far as what we're hopeful of for the Hawks, it just doesn't seem like it's going to happen. As far as talking about the big names still out there, it's Ehlers. That's the last big domino to fall. I can't think of another guy that's out there that carries any kind of cachet like that's still out there, unless I'm forgetting somebody. But either everybody has gone back to the team that they were with yesterday, or a couple guys have moved, but it's nothing huge.
Yeah, I mean, aside from Ehlers, the only one that would excite me a little bit would be Granlund, because it would be a short-term deal, and he would help. And then if you had to trade him at this deadline or next, you could, and it'd be fine. I'd be fine with that.
It really doesn't feel like that's going to happen.
But no, I mean, you've always got your Gustav Nyquist and your Pius Suiters. It looks like Pius Suter was going to go back to Vancouver, but I wonder if the Besser thing changes that.
Maybe, yeah. Yeah, we got, let's see, Brent Burns is still out there, Dmitry Orlov, Jeff Petrie.
Brent Burns would be fun.
Sure.
I know it makes zero sense from a hockey standpoint, but it'd be
it
fun.
doesn't really make much sense. Andrew Mangiapane, that'd be a good one.
All right, we're timing out, Daniel.
Ryan.
Katie. Yeah, thank you.
Ryan Lindgren. Let's see. David Savard. Oof. Yeah.
That's it, man.
Jonathan Drouin. Jack Roslovic.
I know Drouin has had good years. Someone DM me about Drouin.
James Van Riemsdyk.
Yesterday. Drouin put up some pretty big numbers.
It's just inconsistent.
Wasn't there a bit of a... I might be wrong, so I don't want to say I'm wrong, but didn't he have some kind of personality issues or locker room issues?
Not that I remember off the top of my head. I think he just had a lot of inconsistencies.
Just underperformed.
Former, top 3 pick, and I think that just maybe I think early on in his career he might have had a little bit of an entitlement. I think that if I remember correctly, that was something that was kind of out there with Tampa when he was there. But in his time in Colorado, from what I was able to glean from our friends over at DNVR, I think they liked having Duran. It's just the consistency wasn't there. Like, he could show flashes of what made him a really top pick, but that's just not consistently the guy that he is.
I mean, his 2 years in Colorado, he also had some injury problems. Let's remember that.
Sure.
2023-24, 56 points in 79 games. Last year, 37 points in 43 games. He is
30.
He is 30. Turned 30 in March. I mean, that feels like another Burakovsky to me a little bit, which, does it make the team better? Yeah. It gives you more guys that can put the puck in the net? Sure. Fine. I would be pleased with Jonathan Drouin, even though I would be skeptical about his ability to do what he did in Colorado here.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah,
we'll see. I know we got some super chats we got to get to as well, so let's do that. Nathan says, I've been someone calling for patience and a rebuild from before the teardown. Even I will be frustrated if Lafferty, Burakovsky are the only moves.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Even the people that have been completely on board with everything, those limits are being tested here. But David's going to stick to his plan.
All right, $5 from our buddy Windy City Hockey says, my problem is I don't want to see the Blackhawks turn into Buffalo, and it feels like at this point with how it's going. Well, I mean, I don't think it's.
I think Buffalo is. I think there's a lot going on there. I think ownership in Buffalo caused a lot of problems.
Yes,
handcuffed some GMs for wanting to do more.
They've also shipped out a ton of their best prospects.
Yeah, it's also asset mismanagement. And
right.
I wouldn't say Kyle Davidson has shown any signs of asset mismanagement at this point. And I don't get any indications that ownership is going to block him from doing what needs to be done to be successful. If anything, I would ponder that maybe ownership might start saying, we'd like you to do a little bit more to make the team successful than what you're doing. But, again, there's still a lot for, what Davidson sold as his plan to actually, get to those next steps.
Well, if there's a silver lining, this does seem to indicate that the Danny Wirtz and Jamie Faulkner let Kyle Davidson do his job, because you'd think for the 100th anniversary they'd want some sort of big splash, some kind of big name added, something they can sell to season ticket holders. But they're not. Clearly, they're not interfering in his process. So that's good. That's what you want from your ownership and business ops side.
Yeah, from a sales and marketing side, feels like this is the first year that we're going to really see a lot of like, hey, all the kids are here. Get excited about these kids. Almost by choice, they're going to have to do it that way, because that's who's going to be on the team.
All right, $10 from Chris says, thank you for the learning recommendations, Hockey Guy and Inside the Coaches Room. I've learned a lot already. Do you guys ever do breakdowns during the season? I can't wait to get back to UC. Yeah, I mean,
PD,
we do them every game, but PD does the
as in depth as
right.
PD from Inside the Coaches Room. We could only wish to know as much as he does, but when we love having him on, he does a great job breaking down the game.
Our issue too is that YouTube does not allow us to play highlights, and PD has like the telestration software and knows how to do. I don't know how to do that crap at all. PD is great at it. He was a video coach, so he can do it in his sleep. So whenever we have something very specific to ask PD, and I'm sure within the first month of Jeff Blashill, we'll get him on to kind of say, hey, these are the systems he's using. This is his philosophy. But yeah, we'll get PD on a lot this year, especially with the new head coach and a bunch of young players. But thank you, Chris, for the $10 super chat. Cristo, $5 says, if all these stadium plans play out, Chicago is just going to get that much more beautiful. Can't wait to move back.
Yeah, the 1901 project is a big undertaking, but it's going to completely change an already changing landscape on the west side of town. And it's a 15-year plan for it to be fully realized, just like Kyle Davidson's rebuild for the Hawks. It's a low-hanging fruit.
You've got to be patient.
It's a low-hanging fruit. But no, yeah, I hope we're all around to see the final, final realization of the 1901 plan.
And
project.
Ruthless Hauser,
Project.
$5. As someone who's lived in both Chicago and LA, I'd take Chicago 90,000 times over. Wonderful city.
Nice.
Let's effing go Hawks.
LA.
I love LA. LA's a great city too. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, I went to LA once. It was a lot of fun.
All right, we're going to hit the break zone one final time. If you've not hit that like button for us, please do so as we head to the last segment of the show here on CHGO Blackhawks. And let's talk about your next weekend escape, or maybe just your next big night out, because Potawatomi Casino Hotel Milwaukee has everything you need in one spot. We're talking thousands of the latest slots and table games, and if you're ready to refuel, they've got a ton of amazing restaurants and bars to choose from. Whether you're feeling fancy or you just want a quick bite, Potawatomi Casino Hotel Milwaukee has you covered. You don't even have to leave the property. Stay in style at their luxury hotel. They're just steps away from what many call the Midwest's best sports book. And if you're heading to a ball game this summer at Wrigley North, start your day right at Potawatomi. Hit the sports book, then head out for the game. It's all right there. Super convenient. Milwaukee's got a full summer lineup, concerts, festivals, sports, you name it. Summerfest, always a good time. Potawatomi is the perfect home base for all of it. Potawatomi Casino Hotel Milwaukee. Your win is waiting. Go check it out.
And it's hot. You might be sweaty.
Too hot.
You might be stinky. You need
Probably.
Mando. Whole body deodorant that is safe to use anywhere on your body, including but not limited to your pits, your balls, your thigh folds, your belly button, your butt's crack, and your feet. Created by a doctor who saw firsthand how normal body odor was being misdiagnosed and mistreated, you can choose from a variety of scents for Mando, from bourbon leather to Clover Woods, Mount Fuji, Pro Sport, clinically proven to control odor better than a shower with soap alone. And Mando's starter pack is perfect for new customers. Comes with a solid stick deodorant, cream tube deodorant, and 2 free products of your choice, such as the mini body wash or the deodorant wipes. And it comes with free shipping. And as a special offer for our listeners, you can get $5 off that starter pack when you use our code CHGO at shopmando.com. Again, that's the code CHGO at shopmando.com. Support our show. Tell them that we sent you. Smell fresher, stay drier, and boost your confidence from head to toe with Mando.
Nothing new. Things have really slowed down on the free agent front here. Colin White to the Sharks. Was he with the Sharks already? No.
Colin White
went to the Sharks.
There you go.
$775,000. But that's really it.
Age Conclaves stays with Tampa.
There you go. I got a question for you.
Yes.
And Mark Lazarus just tweeted this too, oddly enough. What is Boston's plan?
Oof. Well, you still got Pasternak.
Yep.
You still got Swayman. You have Charlie McAvoy. You now have Tanner Jeannot.
Yep.
You now have Victor Arvidsson. They're shooting for the middle? I don't know. I don't think they have enough to really compete in the playoffs, but they're definitely not trying to bottom out because you're keeping all the guys that you're hoping are going to, get you there, but it's a lot for Pasternak, but he's worth it. McAvoy is he's in the age range and still productive and effective, and he's worth it. Swayman, you made your investment in him. I think he's still worth it, but I just don't think that their prospect. It's not like they're looking at the prospect pool and like, oh, there's reinforcements ahead. Like they don't really have guys like that. So I don't know. It definitely seems like they're going to try and right the ship on the fly, but I don't think that they really got enough pieces to do that.
It just doesn't. You have to be realistic, and like this is I think where towards the end, people started getting frustrated with Stan Bowman. Well, a lot of people hated him from jump because he was a nepo baby and could do no right in a lot of people's mind. Just as Kyle Davidson is looked at because he has no experience by a lot of Hawks fans. But like for people looking at it objectively with Stan Bowman, towards the end it was like, what is. Like we talked about yesterday, the Chris Kunitz, Brandon Manning,
right?
Cam Ward summer, and then you're like, well, we're going to rebuild. They send a letter to fans and saying, you got to be patient. We've had great success, but it's time to kind of get things back. And then they abandon that plan, and it's.
Well, I mean, they also got Elias Lindholm, Casey Middlestat. They extended Morgan Geekie. You still got Pavel Zacha. You brought back Henry Yokiharu. You have Nikita Zadorov also there. You've anchored yourself to him. You've anchored yourself to Hampus Lindholm. I mean, you kind of are this team. A lot of guys are anchored in. So, yeah, I don't think that they have really they don't have the young guys that are going to be plug in place, replace guys, and keep this thing going. They don't really have guys like that. And the guys that they've locked themselves into, I think, like I said, Pasternak, McAvoy, Swayman, great guys. The supporting cast is only going to get you so far. I don't think they have enough to compete, especially in the same division as Florida.
Yeah.
And, you get into the Eastern Conference, you have to deal with Florida and Tampa and Toronto. And, who knows what the Rangers are going to be, but there's still somebody that's going to try and compete. Going out and getting Gavrikov is a big deal. You have to deal with Carolina. Is Boston better than any of those teams? Maybe the Rangers. Maybe they're right there with the Rangers. But that's the same team, too, that you're kind of do they have it? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, they did get Higgins in the draft, which helps a little bit.
Islanders did. No, Boston. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, but it felt like it was going to be the Islanders.
Yes.
But yeah, I just don't see. I'd rather be where the Hawks are now than where the Bruins are now, because even if they have a bounce back year, they're not cup contenders. They might win a round. Maybe they get lucky and do 2 if they can ride a hot goalie for a couple rounds. But that's not a cup caliber team, and they're making moves that a cup caliber team would be making.
Yeah.
A Tanner Jeannot free agent signing is, hey, we need to get bigger in our bottom 6 so we can compete stronger.
Right.
That's not a rebuilding or retooling sort of a move. I don't know.
Yeah.
A couple more super chats rolled in I want to get to before we wrap things up. Sam says, thoughts in Atlanta potentially getting another NHL team. Side note, I grew up in Atlanta and moved to Chicago a year ago. It's definitely the best city in the U.S. Thank you, Sam.
Third time's the charm, right?
Yeah. No, I don't want Atlanta getting another team.
They only get to have a team again if it's the Thrashers brought back.
I just don't it hasn't worked. And I know it's not just as simple as the market doesn't like hockey. I know that's overly simplifying it, because I think Phoenix is a pretty good example that there was a hockey fan base there. It was just horribly managed.
Right.
But yeah, you've had 2 shots at it now and it hasn't worked. So
I mean, if you can make hockey work in other markets like in North Carolina and Tennessee and all this, you can make it work in a metro like Atlanta.
I agree.
You just have
and
to
it's
have
all
the right
about the
people
ownership.
in charge, yeah.
But I'd rather give another market a shot that maybe hasn't had one yet. Like Salt Lake City.
Yeah, sure.
They've done a good job.
Ryan Lindgren, 4 years, 4.5 per year to Seattle.
That's a guy I had my eye on a little bit. You want to talk about a depth veteran defenseman, plays physical, is not going to, if you got a kid that proves to be ready, you probably sit him if you need to. Kind of like that. That's not a bad. It's kind of long. 4 years is more than I would have given him. That's the other thing we have to kind of
he's only
keep in mind too.
27?
Yeah, but I don't think the Hawks want to sign any defensemen to long-term deals right now, because
no,
as we're not totally sure what they have up front aside from Bedard and Nazar. We're pretty sure they've got at least 4 really good defensemen.
Right.
Potentially 8 really good defensemen. Probably somewhere between 4 and 8.
The hope is that
so you don't want to have a guy like Ryan Lindgren sign up for 4 years. There was some speculation they would add a depth defenseman, but I think if that's going to happen, it would be a short-term sort of a thing.
It also feels like it's going to be someone who's left over by this weekend. You know?
Yep. Doug Walker, $5 says, come on, Kyle, you can't wait forever, and my support is waiting for you to actually achieve something, anything. Yep, that's the fans getting impatient.
Yeah. No, it's valid. It's valid. There's, I mean, I think across the board, you can have people that are dug in as fans and diehards, people in our chat every day and people that, consume Blackhawks and hockey 24/7, 365 that are totally in on Davidson's plan and totally out on Davidson's plan. And then, I think there's, subsections of the fan base that might be a little bit more casual where they check in, season starts. Oh, okay, I'll tune in. Who are these guys? Tell me about them. And once the season's over, it's all right. Well, baseball's on.
Sure. Yeah.
And there's sections of the fan base that just want to see a product that they can enjoy, and when they turn on their TV and be entertained by the hockey team and not just see them lose constantly.
Especially now you're asking people to upgrade their cable packages or give you $20 a month for an app, and they want to see some action. They want to see some improvement.
So I can understand frustrations from all angles of the fan base.
Well, that's
sure.
I mean, look, like I think the most patient are the ones who do pay attention every game and during the offseason and would identify as like Hawks as their primary team. But for the other people, they say, look, the Hawks have been bad for a long time. Why are they still bad?
Right.
How have they been? They don't understand that the rebuild started 3 years ago.
Right.
In their minds, it's, the rebuild started in 2017. Right? Like that, which isn't true. But they've been bad since then. So it feels that way.
Right.
If you're paying attention, what they're doing makes sense. It's certainly frustrating. I get it that they're not being a little more active today, but
and hockey is a completely different animal when it comes to trying to turn things around on a dime.
Right.
It's almost impossible. Like it's a lot harder than, in basketball or football as it might be to just be like, oh, just trade all your players and get all your picks and trade your picks and sign all the free agents and there's unlimited money and whatever. Like it's really not that way. Teams, you hear rebuild through the draft, and if you're thinking of it in a football context, it's like, yeah, your first 3 draft picks, maybe you got 2 first rounders and a second rounder, and they're all going to play next year. Well, not in hockey.
No.
I saw people getting frustrated with, the guys that they picked in the first round. It's just like, why are they picking these guys that are 4 years away from even, playing? It's like, well, that's what you do when you have an 18-year-old. It's you get maybe 1 or 2 guys per draft that jump right into the NHL. Maybe.
Yeah, this year it might be
completely different.
Like Schaefer might not even come to the NHL this year.
Yeah, it's not a foregone conclusion. So
actually, I feel like if anyone has a chance, it might be Frondell, just
or
because he
Misa.
played against grown men and that sort of thing. Maybe Misa, but I think Frondell's got a not 50-50 chance, but maybe 40-60 potentially. $5 from Lucas Reichel says Hawks should pitch to Ehlers that'll play with Lucas Reichel. NHL players understand top talent, and he would sign for $8 million for 6 years. Sure, yeah, I think so.
Absolutely.
Thanks for the $5.
Yeah, I believe in Lucas Reichel.
Reichel.
They're gonna figure it out.
Yeah, so we'll see. So Ehlers still on the board, Granlund's still on the board, Duran's still on the board. I don't like beyond that. Is there? Even as I've been thinking about it during the show, like Duran, no. I'd rather just have a kid play.
No, I think all the guys that I was like enticed by and intrigued by, they're gone.
Yeah,
and I don't think I could really point to too many players. Maybe Jack Roslovic, maybe, but just based off of age and what they would do for the position group. But man, I look at what's available, and outside of them landing Ehlers, which they're not going to, I don't think there's really anything else that's really worth the time or money.
No, Besser would have been for me, but that's it.
Yeah,
Ehlers and Besser were the dreams. All right, one more super chat from Nathan. What are you guys grilling for the 4th? I think I'm going to New Buffalo, Michigan, so they'll be grilling for me.
Nice. Yeah, I'm not going anywhere where I'm going to 2 places on the 4th, so pray for me. But I will not be in charge of the grilling.
And Defy Gravity, $5 says, why can't a Robertson trade include our 2026 pick with conditions, protections for the top 3 or something similar? Because Dallas doesn't want that. Yeah, Dallas is trying to win a Stanley Cup. They want NHL talent back.
Right. I mean, you could add that condition on the pick in a package, but
then
it still
that-
comes down to
yeah.
what NHL talent are you giving Dallas?
And that pick loses a lot of value with that because
Right.
while it is a better draft than last year, the main prize is at the top there.
Right.
So I talked about it last week. Would you trade the chance at McKenna for Jason Robertson? I said yes, but now that I'm thinking about it more, maybe not. I don't know. That's why I'm glad I'm not the GM yet.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Yes, yet.
Give
We're
it
going to wrap
time.
things up. We will talk to you tomorrow at
right.
2 o'clock. Greg's going to be here.
Greg's going to be here tomorrow.
Yep.
Me and Greg will talk about anything that happens over the next 24 hours. Kyle Davidson's going to talk this afternoon in a couple minutes here, so we'll head over there and get all that and have that ready for tomorrow and tune in.
And I might be here.
Maybe
We'll see
they'll
what
sign
happens.
one more person. Maybe.
We'll see what chaos reigns in my personal life to see if I'm here or not. All right. Nick Bukestad to the Blues.
Cool.
2-year deal. All right. Talk to you tomorrow at 2 on the CHGO Blackhawks Podcast.
We all silly like the mayor.